Hi everyone. I'm going to read you a story today that is set in a country a long way from where we live. And you can probably see, here we are. So we live in the United Kingdom, around about there. That's where London is. But we are reading a story that is set all the way down here in a country called Australia. You can see it's a huge country. And in Australia, there are animals that don't live anywhere else but Australia, like koala bears and kangaroos. You only see them in other countries if you visit them in the zoo, but in Australia, they live out in the wild. That's also true that there are plants there that don't grow anywhere else in the world. And the countryside in Australia is called the bush. And what we call brooks or streams are called creeks. So you will hear those words, the bush and creeks, in the story, and now you know what they mean. And now you can imagine how long it would take to get from us in England to Australia. If you went by boat in the olden days, it would take weeks and weeks, if not months. Nowadays, you can fly there by aeroplane, and it still takes 2 whole days in an aeroplane to get there. So that's how far away it is. It's a very long way. It's also very much hotter in Australia. When it gets hot, it gets hotter than it does when it gets hot here in the summer. So out in the bush, things get very dry and fires start very easily. So let's get started. It's called Wombat Goes Walkabout, and it's written by Michael Morpurgo and illustrated by Christian Birmingham, and the illustrations are stunning. So we will have a close look. Okay, so you've had a look at the map. I'm going to go back to full screen. Hi. And now we can start the story. Now, can I just say that normally I wouldn't bend books like this, but I'm doing it so that we can all share the pictures really well. Okay. One day, Wombat woke up and thought, I think I'll dig a hole today. Wombat loved digging holes, so he went off and dug a deep hole. He crawled inside and sat there in the cool and the dark and began to think, because Wombat loved thinking as well. He thought to himself, why is the sky blue? Why am I a wombat and not a kangaroo? There he is, he's dug his hole and he's having a think. Sometime later, Wombat climbed out of his hole. He looked around for his mother, but he couldn't see her anywhere. See, this is the bush. He was all alone. You, cried Kookaburra from high in the sky. I'm Wombat, said Wombat. And what can you do, Wombat? Asked Kookaburra. Not much. I dig a lot and I think a lot. Ha ha ha! That's nothing, cackled Kookaburra. I can fly, look at me. And he looped the loop and flew away. So kookaburras and wombats live in the wild in Australia. Wombat went down to the creek to look for his mother, but she wasn't there. There's the creek. She wasn't there either. Just then Wallaby came hopping by. Who are you? He asked, looking down his nose at Wombat. I'm Wombat, said Wombat. And what can you do, Wombat? Not much. I dig a lot and I think a lot. Ha! That's nothing, laughed Wallaby. I can hop, I can skip, I can jump. Look at me. And he hopped and he skipped and he jumped away. Wombat walked and walked, and everywhere he walked, he looked for his mother, but he couldn't see her anywhere. He sat down under a stringy bark gum tree. See, that's a tree we don't have here. A stringy bark gum tree to get his breath back. Just then, Possum popped down beside him. Who are you? She asked, darting her eyes this way and that. I'm Wombat, said Wombat. And what can you do? She asked. Not much. I dig a lot and I think a lot. That's nothing, laughed Possum. I can hang upside down. I can swing by my tail. Look at me. And she swung away up the stringy gum tree. Wombat wandered sadly through the bush, still looking for his mother. Just then, Emu scampered by. Emu scampered by. "Who are you?" he snapped. "I'm Wombat," said Wombat. "What can you do?" "Well, not much. I dig a lot and I think a lot." "That's nothing," laughed Emo. "I can scamper, I can scoot around in crazy circles. Look at me." And away he scampered, scooting around in crazy circles. Just then, Boy came by, hunting after Emu. "Who are you?" he asked. "I'm Wombat," said Wombat. "And what can you do?" "Not much. I dig a lot and I think a lot." "That's nothing," laughed Boy. "I can do just about everything. I can run, I can jump, I can swing, I can even hunt. Look at me." And off he went, hunting after Emu. I think he's got a spear or something, a stick, to try and catch the emu with. It was baking hot now. Oh, you can see everything's glowing in that hot, hot sun. It was baking hot now, and Wombat shuffled into the shade of a great eucalyptus tree. He hoped his mother might be there, but she wasn't. "Who are you?" called Koala from high up in the tree above him. "I'm Wombat," said Wombat. "Well, and what can you do?" "Not much. I dig a lot and I think a lot." "That's nothing," laughed Koala. "I can doze, I can snooze, I can snore. Look at me." And very soon she was dozing and snoring and snoozing with her little one high up in the eucalyptus tree. By now, Wombat was very, very tired, so he lay down in the shade and sang himself to sleep. When Wombat woke up, he looked around for his mother. Oh, but she still wasn't there. "I know," he thought. "I'll climb the highest hill I can find. Surely I'll be able to see her then." So that's what he did. He climbed and he climbed and he climbed. When he reached the top, he looked about him. Everywhere he looked, there were lots of cackling kookaburras, hopping wallabies, scooting. Who was scooting? The emus, scooting and scampering emus, dozing koalas, swinging possums. But no matter how hard he looked, he couldn't see his mother anywhere. But he did see something else. He saw smoke, he saw fire, he saw trees and bushes burning. It was coming straight towards him. Wombat thought very hard, very, very hard. Suddenly, he knew what to do. He ran down the hill as fast as he could and he began to dig. Look at the fire starting to burn so strongly. Huge flames. He ran down the hill and he began to do what wombats do very, very well. He began to dig. He dug and he dug and he dug. Then Kookaburra came by, and Wallaby, and Possum, and Emu, and Boy, and Koala. "Fire!" they all cried. "Fire! You need to get out. Run, run, you silly Wombat. Fire, fire!" But Wombat just went on digging. The animals get very frightened when they know the fire's coming. "But what are you doing?" they asked. "I'm digging," replied Wombat. "And I'm thinking too." "Well, what are you thinking?" they cried. "I'm thinking that the fire burns faster than you can run or fly or hop or swing. And I'm thinking that there's plenty of room down in my hole if you want to join me. We'll be quite safe." They took just one look at all the crackling fire and all the billowing smoke, and one look was all they needed. Down they came to join Wombat in his hole until they were all sitting there safe and snug. And to keep them all happy, Wombat sang them the digging song that his mother had taught him and her mother had taught her. When at last it was all over, the fire and the song, They climbed into the evening air. I just wish I could find my mother. I've lost her and she's lost me. Well, why didn't you ask? They all said. We'll find her for you. And away they went, flying and swinging and hopping and scampering, running around in all directions. With so many of them looking, it wasn't long before they found Wombat's mother and brought her back to him. Wombat and his mother hugged and hugged and hugged. And then Mother cried, I've been looking everywhere for you. I was worried sick. What have you been up to? Not much, Mum. I've just been digging a bit and thinking a lot. That's all. And that is the end of the story. How Wombat saved a lot of the other animals in the bush by inviting them into his deep, dark, cool hole, which he dug when everybody else thought he was mad and should be running. But he knew something about fire, and that is that fire burns very, very rapidly. Did you hear me say burn? I think that might have one of our phonemes in. Burn. Okay? That's what made me think of this story. I am going to leave you now. I hope you have enjoyed the story, and I hope you will have another look at the map of the world and learn a little bit more about the animals and the plants that grow and live in Australia.